Hi there, viewers. Today I'm joining a conversation with author Wallace Briggs, the author of The Amazing Adventure of Jimmy Cracky book series. It's a pleasure to have Wallace on the show today. How are you doing, Wallace?
Thank you, Peter. Yes, I'm doing very well, thank you. The sun is shining today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you featured on P English Literature. So, Wallace, could you tell us about your book, The Amazing Adventures of Jimmy Crockett, What's Beneath and Above the Stars, which is one of the Adventure of Jimmy Crockett book series. How do you come about writing this book? What inspired you to write The Amazing Adventure of Jimmy Crockett?
The book we're referring to is the very first Jimmy Cranky story that I wrote.
Hmm.
It actually came to life over 40 years ago,
Wow.
whilst on a seaside holiday with children. Uh, and there happened to be a heavy summer shower. So the children that my son was playing with had to take shelter, and they're sheltered in our beach tent. Five noisy children rather disturbed my wife. So
Oh.
she told me, please keep them quiet. How do I keep them quiet? I asked. She said, read them a story or something. But I said, I have got a storybook. Well, she said, make a story up then. And literally, for the first time in my life, I made up a story on the spot for children, which I had never done before.
Wow.
How I decided about the central character, Jimmy Craigie, was that one of the young boys that was playing in the group happened to be ginger haired, red haired, we say, uh, and he was being slightly bullied by the older boys. He was being asked to go fetch and carry. Uh, and I thought, this is the child who I will make become a hero. So I started off with a boy who was bullied and turned him into a hero in the telling of the story of Jimmy Craigie, who himself was bullied because he looked strange.
Wow.
He was made to feel very unhappy to the point where he actually ran away to escape the barbs, the criticisms, the laughter, and the he felt ashamed. So he ran away in the hopes of finding a place where he would fit in.
Hmm.
And Jimmy did find a place where he fit in. He found a place where it didn't matter what he looked like. He found a place, and if I may turn to a page that is in my book, because I can't, my memory's gone, I can't remember everything. It goes, mirror, mirror on the wall. It doesn't matter if I'm short or tall, if my legs are skinny or my wrist is wide, waist is wide. It only matters what's inside. Blue eyes, brown eyes, black or green. What makes you beautiful can't be seen.
Hmm.
When you look at me, don't judge my parts. The best thing about me is in my heart. That was the premise of my story for these children.
Absolutely. I love the sound of it, and it sounds like a fantastic read to me. And I want to ask you, how many series are there in this particular book? Is it one or two or three, four, five?
Right. When I first wrote the stories
Yeah.
and started submitting to publishers in an attempt to get published, they consisted of five or six short stories.
Oh.
And one of the publishers who looked at the stories said, we're interested, send the stories back as a single story. So the five adventures were turned into one longer adventure. But it wasn't accepted for publication.
Oh,
So it went into the back of the drawer for years and years before I decided to try again to have it published. Uh, I ended up self-publishing on Amazon, uh, and I've had a modicum of success.
that's great. I love the sound of this book. And it's actually one will make me to ask if you experience any challenges while writing your book. I know that writing stories can be very, could take a lot of challenge, a lot of time, a lot of that. I want to ask you, do you experience any challenges while writing your books? If there is any, could you tell us what challenge it is and how you ultimately overcame it?
That's a difficult question to answer, Peter. When I write a book,
Mm.
I get lost in the world that I'm writing about. I don't pre-plan what I will write. The story comes to my mind and sometimes flows so fast I can't write the words down fast enough to keep up.
Oh, wow.
So I think people say I'm not a plotter, I'm a pantsier. And a pantsier is somebody who lives by the seat of his pants. So that is how I write.
Oh.
And sometimes the ideas dry up.
Mm.
So what I do is I put the book to one side and I have other hobbies, which include playing organ music uh, and also painting scenes on pottery. I just move away from the book for a day, a week, never a month.
Oh.
And when I come back to it, I'm able to pick up the pace again.
Oh, that's amazing. That's quite lovely to hear. Now, Wallace, let's talk about criticism. I want to ask you, how do you react to negative criticism of your books if you've ever had one in time past?
I have to think hard about that. And I don't recall negative criticisms. I do. I recall one which said that I was giving the children the wrong message
Oh, wow.
about running away from a problem
Oh,
instead of facing it.
oh,
That was a valid point, uh, which I still really don't have an answer to. Just that not all of us are strong enough to stand up and face the problem at
mm,
that time.
absolutely.
Jimmy found the strength after running away.
Mm. That's good to know. That's quite good to know. Now, I want to ask you, Wallace, could you tell us what publishing is like for a published author like yourself? What are the challenges you've encountered in terms of marketing your books? What are the mediums you've utilized so far in promoting this book series?
The second or third word you used there was marketing. I have been in sales and marketing all my life, all my working life.
Mm,
But when it came to promoting and marketing my own work, I am and was and am useless. It's the most difficult part of the process for
mm.
me.
Well, that's great to know. I understand the marketing can take quite a lot of, time, quite a lot of things, especially with the new time people. Now, I also want to ask you, is there anything that you love to share with the viewers about your books that we did not mention in this interview, and you'd love the viewers to know about your books?
That's a difficult one. Simply because the books in my mind flow. I don't have to think too much about what I'm writing
Mm,
because the writing just comes to me. Uh, but there is a hidden It's not hidden. Uh, I'm sorry to stumble over the words.
I understand.
It has been commented favorably by other uh, writers that my books do not contain excessive violence. And I am against violence for the sake of violence. The violence that does occur in my book occurs from necessity to, shall we say, protect from a danger, a hazard. Uh, but I'm a peacemaker rather than a warmonger. And my books preach the message, if at all possible, find the peaceful way of resolving a problem.
Wow. I love the sound of that. I really love the sound of that. Now, I just want to ask you, Wallace, as a published author, what sort of advice do you have for other writers who are still struggling with publishing a book like yours? What did you tell people in this category?
My advice is if you love to write,
Mm,
write, write, and write again. Don't give up. I've been on the verge of giving up several times. I've actually put the books away for a month or two.
wow,
If you do that, your work will never reach the marketplace.
absolutely.
So pick up a pen and start writing again.
Mm, wow. I love your advice, and I'm hopeful that viewers, including myself, would love to utilize it. I also love to ask you, Wallace, do you have any other books you're currently working on apart from the ones you've published so far? Should we be expecting a new publication? Are you currently writing a new works in the work?
Yes, I am still writing, and I am writing a new book. Uh, I also want to write a sixth book about Jimmy Crikey, but
Oh,
that will follow on if and when I finish my current work, which is a memoir telling the story of my life as I've got to say, a poor child in a family of four with a father who was so sick he could hardly work to earn a living to keep the family.
mm,
Uh, to tell the story of how dad lost his job, and when he lost his job, he lost his house.
wow.
So for a long while, we had to move in with uh, dad's mother, my gran, and gran was already looking after three other grandchildren from her, her daughters married. So for a while, living in a two-bedroomed house, there were four adults and seven children.
Wow.
uh, but we benefited from those times. We learned lessons and learned to live together. I'm sorry I've digressed a little from
No
the
problem.
question that you asked me. Uh, so that's part of the story that I'm trying to write. Uh, uh, and I didn't give up. My father wouldn't allow me to earn a living with my hands. He insisted that I would earn my living with my brain.
Wow.
So I qualified as a chemist uh, by working part no by working in a university as a technician, whilst qualifying with part-time education up to almost degree standard. After that, I became a technical salesman, and my life and the life of my wife changed for the better, and we were never poor again up
Mm,
to this point.
wow.
I'm sorry,
That's an amazing story, actually. I look forward to reading it when it's finally published.
thank you.
Yeah, I also want to ask you, Wallace, on what platform can interested viewers get a copy of your book in case we have people who are interested in purchasing a copy? What platform are they available on?
My books are all published on Amazon. Oh, I think the best way to find the links is via my website. I have a website. May I, yes, repeat the website? www.wallaceebriggs, lowercase, no capitals, wallaceebriggs.com. And on my website, you'll find some of the background that I've outlined
Mhm.
and all the links to all the stories that I've written,
Mhm.
uh, plus the accolades I've received. Uh, I have been awarded several literary awards for my writing.
Amazing. That's great. That's quite amazing. And I left a link in the description part of this conversation to Wallace's books for interested viewers who would love to get a copy of any of his books. So thank you so much, Wallace, for accepting the invitation to be featured on P English Literature. It's a pleasure having you on the show.
I've enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you here.